it's also the only drug the United States has ever backed off prohibition on. And that's because it's the white people's drug. Hello and welcome to another video. In today's video, I'm talking about everybody's favorite, alcohol. So what inspired this video was Canada just changed their healthy alcohol consumption rate advice from 14 alcohol drinks. I believe they were saying about 14 a week was healthy. Now they're saying 2. That is a massive change. Now, I remember the mid-90s, I'm standing outside of one of my favorite restaurants, reading the newspaper in the newspaper thing, like on the corner of the street, downtown Portland. And the headline is, 1 glass of wine a day is healthy for you, right? So drinking is healthy, which is what that meant to me at my age, which was like 23 to 25 or somewhere in there, right? When I read that. So I immediately conflated that to daily drinking was okay. And, healthy. And I would rarely drink red wine. And I think that was specifically red wine was healthy. 1 glass of, I actually looked that up now, and they've backed off of that as well. And what I think is going on here is partially you have genetics. So if you were to run a test on Native Americans, they don't have the genes that Europeans have that deals with alcohol. So, if you test this Native American, you're going to have this Native American tribe or group of Native Americans, you're going to get a completely different result than you would get if you were to test, a group of people. There's some legendary drinkers that have just been pounding alcohol for decades. And you can look at them and see that it's done the damage, right? But they're most definitely still operating until, not everybody. Alcohol kills the most people, period. It is the most damaging drug. It's the only drug you can die from the withdrawals, okay? So it's no joke. And it's also the only drug the United States has ever backed off prohibition on. And that's because it's the white people's drug. My alcohol consumption, I can remember the first time I would imagine 8 years old, somewhere in there. And my mom was having a party at our house. And I remember somebody asking her if they could give me a beer. Oh, yeah. So, I had my first, here's a party, drink alcohol, right? When I was that young. Now, my grandfather would also make cocktails for the grandkids. And I would imagine that those cocktails were timed with his being sick of us, being full energy, running around playing, oh, here, come sit at the bar and drink some alcohol. And then the kids are taking naps, right? So that's my earliest memories of alcohol. And it was just and then I grew up in a place that I should not have grown up in. 100% a community of people that were, in a lot of cases, retired, but in most cases, were loving alcohol. And it was this houseboat mortgage, right? And it was this was the official arm position of the houseboat mortgage. Everybody had alcohol all the time. They were walking around with it. It was just after 5. There was this 5 o'clock rule that they had all imposed on themselves. It was kind of funny. There was not supposed to be kids there. But my mom married this freaking jackass that didn't give a shit about rules, about those types of, and would just push boundaries and just, and he messed up my life and my little brother's life and a bunch of people's lives, all for his own selfish interests. Okay? I shouldn't have lived there. My little brother shouldn't have lived there. It was a houseboat mortgage full of partying people, and they actually had a rule saying no kids. So I was exposed to massive amounts of drinking, right? And I started hanging out with this guy that lived there. He was like my big brother in essence after my mom and her husband got divorced, and this place was nothing to do for kids really. So we just, and I mean, they had all kinds of cool video games and remote control cars and just all kinds of stuff. They were just professional drinkers. And I got to meet all these people throughout my life that were just hardcore drinkers. Like, a lot of them were trust fund kids or, waiting for their parents or grandparents to die because then they were going to get a lot of money. Some of the worst people I've ever met in my life are those type of people, by the way. Okay? And this is why inheritance tax should be like 99.9%, to be honest. Because nothing good. I've never seen, rich kids behave like good people, back to the alcohol. So I was hanging out with this dude. He was like 15 years older than me or something like that. And I could just take booze. So I started drinking on a regular basis when I was like 15 or 14 or something like that, right? And I slowed down a little bit when I turned 21 because it wasn't that big a deal anymore. But then fast forward, I had to go to prison for 7 years. And so drinking for me has always been high, top shelf, right? Good. It's not always, I should take that back, since the microbrew revolution, right? Which would be right around the time I was turning 21, okay? So my adult life is spent enjoying high quality. And even before the microbrew revolution, I used to drink beer before I was even like 21, 18, 19. I had fake ID. I drank Michelob Dark, which was, it was totally different than like 99% of all beers at the time, right? So I've always had a taste for high quality stuff, right? And then when I went to prison, the only booze you could get in there was just crap, except for once or twice, there was some good stuff that came in, some beer, but never any like microbrew, because microbrew wasn't even really out of Oregon much when I was in prison. Now it's everywhere, but this is 30 years later, right? So I did do some drinking in prison, and in prison, whew, it's just that the cheapest vodka typically, just brutal. So, I got out of prison and I go to work in nightclubs and bars and drinking and, this whole like parties, epic, massive fun, just drinking all night long, having a good time, right? And then paying for 3 days. And then maybe another day, and then another big party, and then, and just kind of like this wave, of being hungover and feeling like shit for a day or two, and then when I started my company, right, basically when the big recession was starting, right, like I would work 8 hours and then start drinking. And I, like drink like a 22 or a 2 22-ounce beers, right? While I continued to work. That was like my self-reward. Like, keep working, buddy. Now you can drink. You've done 8. Now how many more can you do? Another 8? Sure. 5 more, 4 more, whatever, So that went on like that for a while, and I wouldn't really get drunk. So I wouldn't really get hangovers, which this is kind of the debate, which kind of drinking, because now, I mean, they're basically saying if you have, enough booze to get buzz, Canada's saying this, right? If you have enough booze to get a buzz, you've had too much already by a long shot. Canada's like 1 or 2 a week now. That's like 1 or 2 a week. And a buzz is like 3 or 4, getting shit-faced for me nowadays is like, 6-pack, I mean, 15 years ago, it was probably a lot more like a half rack, right? So, and even recently, like, sometimes I drink, sometimes I don't drink. But when I do drink, it's always really good stuff, right? And it's like, sometimes I just won't drink for months and months and months now. Sometimes, and it's getting rare. There for a while, I drink every day, but that isn't healthy. And I can literally feel the accumulation of the alcohol after a while of drinking, even just like one or two a day. Like, it adds up, and then you have one or two day. Oh, and then this day you have four, and then one or two. But it's still just so many, especially by the new regulations in Canada. I mean, that is massive, and Japan is actually, the government in Japan is trying to get their citizens now to drink more alcohol for whatever reason. They're trying to get their population up. I don't know. That's get drunk and screw and have kids. No, don't. You want to be sober when you have kids. Trying to get people to have kids by getting them drunk is a horrible idea. That's part of the reason we have so many problems we have today. Licensed in childbirth. So now, basically, nowadays, I don't really bring booze home often, right? Because it's like, I'm just going to drink it, and there's really nothing. So, I'll have like one with dinner here and there. Sometimes I won't even have any. So it's like, it's just a natural progression, and it's because I'm so in tune with my health, and I've just witnessed people destroy themselves with alcohol so many times. Like, I have to think hard to remember people that have died of drugs that I've known, right? And it's only, probably if I thought about it, not even a handful. But I could sit here and just name all kinds of people that I know that have just, draw it from alcohol. I mean, just from people that I knew on the houseboat mortgage that just knew, that just died in drunken, just horribleness, And that's really, is like, there's that level of alcoholism, but that isn't necessarily even the only, right? I mean, even if you're drinking, I should say me, because there are some people, and depending on age, health, genetics, there's a range, right? So just because Canada is saying, 2 drinks a week is max, there's people out there that are probably 4 drinks that are going to have the exact same as the 2 drink people. That's my hypothesis. Because just some people's bodies metabolize alcohol, like, for some reason. And they just are able to. But with myself, like, I'm 51 now. The older I get, the less I never go, oh God, I never want to drink again. Like, what did I do to want to never drink again? Like, did I, like some people, like, if they got shit-faced drunk and car, killed somebody, yeah, right? But, that's not me, so I don't do those things. But like, if I just drank too much at some point, like I went to a party or whatever and just drank and then just woke up the next day just feeling shit and just like, I'm never doing that again. But it's not the booze, it's the amount, right? So I can go have 1 or 2 a few times a week, a couple times a week, a few times a month, and for the rest of my life. And I probably short my life a little bit, but I doubt the fun. See, you gotta weigh the fun times with the amount of time you're taking off your life. Because if you don't ever live life, which you don't have to have booze to live life, but there's whole times it's just, dancing, partying, having a good time, drinking, that's an experience, concerts, whatever, and yeah, you can go to concerts and not drink, but you can go to concerts and drink as well. I mean, it's all the experience of a lifetime, right? So this is just what I wanted to kind of communicate with people, because I don't think very many people are paying attention to this. You know, they do whatever they do. And it's like, I am very concerned about world health and just all these things, right? And so the facts and how things play out is very concerning to me. So I would suggest everybody just, kind of keep it in head. Don't get it crazy on the alcohol. I mean, there's no reason. Or anything else for that matter. Food included. Peace.